If you like books and hooks, you've come to the right place. Hello, my darlings. Welcome to my channel. My name is Andres. For any of you who don't know me, I used to do YouTube about 6 years ago. Tried to dabble into it a little bit, but I wasn't too successful in it, so I ended up not going through with it, unfortunately, at that time. A little bit about me. I'm a 27-year-old Floridian. In terms of books, what type of books I like, I don't really have a specific genre that I prefer to read. I like being open. I like reading every type of genre. I guess my favorite theme, I will say, is fantasy books. I really love a good fantasy book. I don't mind if it's a series. I prefer a standalone in a sense. It's a difficult task to achieve sometimes, in my opinion, because there's some standalones that are not that great that I'm definitely going to get into, and with one of the books I have for you guys today. Moving on from books, I also like to crochet. I really enjoy crocheting. I picked up crocheting, I want to say, maybe last year, April, when I started going more into it and really dedicating myself to going to learning crochet and how to do it. I'll definitely go more into my crochet journey from start to finish in a different video. I've done blankets, which is not an easy feat. I've done shawls, which are super cute, super easy, and super fun to make. I've done a bunch of granny squares. I've done bucket hats, which I really enjoy making, honestly. More recently, I made an outfit for myself for Electric Daisy Carnival this year in Las Vegas. I made myself a tank top and matching shorts out of granny squares. I'll show you guys that in a different video for sure, so stay tuned on that. Then the most recent project that I did was a hexagon cardigan for my boyfriend, also for Electric Daisy Carnival in Las Vegas, and that one I think came out so stunning, so beautiful because of the color choices that he chose. The colors came together so nicely, and I'm so excited to show you guys that in the next video for sure. But anyways, moving along to the main topic of this video, and we are going to discuss all of the books that I've read starting from January all the way to the end of March. I decided to do this type of video just because I wanted to do a monthly wrap-up, but since I'm starting my YouTube journey kind of like a quarter of the year already, so I was like, you know what, let me just give them the first 3 months of what I've already read, just so they know exactly like the type of reader that I am, what I enjoy to read, and what I've been in the mood to read for the first 3 months of 2025. And then moving forward from here on out, I'll definitely do monthly wrap-ups, just so it's a shorter style video for sure, because I'm assuming that this video might be a little long. I'm so sorry, guys. But stay tuned. I swear it's gonna be good. All right. So I read a mix of physical books and Kindle for sure. How I like to do my reading is I like to read Kindle Unlimited free books on my Kindle because I have the Kindle Unlimited subscription. So I like to read them for free. Not free, I'm paying $12 a month for the subscription, but it's included books with the subscription. So I like to read those on my Kindle and not get them physically. Also, I just struggle with the fact that why am I paying double? Like, why am I paying a subscription and I'm also buying the physical book? Kind of contradicting myself in a little bit because some of these books that I have physical are now on Kindle Unlimited, but whatever, all tea, all shade to myself. But nonetheless, let's get into the video. So I did read a total of 14 books, but I'm only going to mention 12 just because one of them was a really short, I don't even want to say it's a novella. It was very short, like 80 pages, like this super tiny, super cute holiday themed cozy mystery. And the second book that I'm not going to talk about today is Twilight by Stephanie Meyers. The only reason I reread this book is because for my birthday, which by the way, my birthday is March 27th, we went to Seattle, Washington for my birthday this year because I like to do a birthday trip every year. We didn't only do Seattle. We did Seattle one of the days out of the 4 that we were there. And then the last 3, we were in Port Angeles and in Forks because I was trying to live my whole Twilight girly fantasy. But anyways, that is exactly why I wanted to reread the book and rewatch the movies because we were going to Washington to live our Twilight fantasy, basically. Alrighty, guys. Let's start this reading wrap-up. So how we're going to start is we're going to go over some stats first for my quarter review, my quarter wrap up. I like to get my stats mainly from Fable and Storygraph. I know Storygraph has elite type of stats, in my opinion. Fable does some pretty good ones too, and I also have Goodreads, but Goodreads doesn't do any stats like that besides the end of the year reading wrap up type of deal thing. So Goodreads is kind of like on the side, the back burner for me. With Fable, I did read 14 books, like I had mentioned, but like I said, I'm only reviewing 12 of them. My largest reading streak of the year is 21 days. I think that was pretty impressive to me. A 21-day reading streak, pretty impressive for myself, I'm not gonna lie. And then my most read genre, should be no surprise, is fantasy. And then my average rating was a 4.3. For my story graph stats, so for the story graph moods, my big four were emotional, adventurous, tense, and mysterious. And then the next couple ones are dark, reflective, sad, lighthearted, and hopeful. Big mix bag right there, honestly. In terms of pacing, I had a 69% medium pace, 39% fast pace. Perfect for me. I'm not the biggest fan of slow paced books or slow burn romance or things like that. It gets very tiresome, cumbersome to have to like read over 500 pages or more before I actually get to the nitty gritty of things. In terms of page counts, page number books, 57% of the books I read were between the 300 to 500 page mark. Perfect balance for me, in my opinion. And then equal amount, 21% for over 500 pages and for 300 or less pages. This should be no surprise either. 93% fiction, 7% nonfiction. The most common genres are romance, fantasy, mystery, magical realism, young adult, thriller, speculative fiction, LGBT, memoir, literary, horror, and contemporary, with an average rating on Storygraph of 4.25. Between Fable and Storygraph, very similar ratings, makes total sense in my opinion, and those are the stats. Now let's get into the book reviews. So our first book is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros was my third introduction into romantasy. I was gooped and gagged with this book, to say the least. For those of you who don't know about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, which I can't even fathom in what world you don't know about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, it's about this girl called Violet Sorrengail. She is a bad-ass bitch, okay? She's a baddie. Baddie with her baddie friends. This is set in a world where dragons and humans coexist. And in the Writer's Quadrant, you get bonded to a dragon. And the type of dragon that you get bonded to really tells you who you really are and deep down inside. The story is primarily focused on all of the rigorous challenges that Violet faces, all of those complex relationships that she has throughout the story. Shadow Daddy. And it mainly has a big focus on uncovering dark, twisted truths about the Kingdom of Navarre. I don't want to get too much into the description of the book because I am known, I'm infamous for spoiling things, and I really don't want to spoil anything for any of my viewers that may have not read this book yet, so I'm going to leave it like that, nice and short and to the point, what the story is about. This book was so amazing to me. The world building was excellent. The actual like trials and tribulations that Violet goes through are amazing. Just seeing that enemies to lover trope evolve so seamlessly and so beautifully between Xaden and Violet was so nice to me. I ultimately gave this book a 5-star rating. Alrighty guys, number 2 that I read this year was Oona Out of Order by Margarita Montimore. This book was actually recommended to me by Haley Hughes on YouTube, and I have to say that that was such a good recommendation. Thank you, because this book, like, it just took me to a different world, and it was so different than what I've always read before. Like, I don't think I've ever dabbled into a magical realism book before. So when I found out about the premise of this book and what it's about, I was like, oh my god, this sounds so cool. Okay, so to kind of give you a little short description about what the book is about, it's a novel that follows Oona Lockhart, who on her 19th birthday begins an unpredictable journey through time, waking up each New Year's Day in a different year of her life. The story explores how Oona navigates the challenges and surprises of living her life out of sequence, adapting to new circumstances and relationships as she strives to find meaning and happiness. Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start with this book, honestly. Like, this book really was transcending to me. It changed like the trajectory of my life, I think, and everything. I mean, this book overall was so different. It was so impressive to me. The magical realism aspect really gripped me to my core and is what had me hooked the entire time during this book. Overall, the rating that I gave this book is a 4.5 out of 5. My biggest critique on the book was just that it was like so fast paced and certain points where I kind of wanted a little more. But overall, like I said, 4.5 out of 5, 10/10 recommend. For the third book that I read this year, it is The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. This book is a fantasy romance novel that follows Mira, a princess who escapes her tyrannical father and becomes entangled with a group of rebels unaware of her royal lineage. As she navigates the new world, Mira faces complex relationships, particularly with Dacre. I probably said his name completely wrong. The story delves into themes of identity, loyalty, and forbidden love, set against the backdrop of political intrigue and rebellion. This book actually recommended to me by a girl at one of my local bookshops. Not what I was expecting. With the enemies to lovers trope, it felt good. I'm not gonna lie to you, like I enjoyed it. But it's not the enemies to lovers trope that I particularly like. I know that doesn't make sense probably, but in my head, the enemies to lovers trope can be done in so many different types of ways. But the way that it was done in this book, it was not my particular fave. One thing, like my biggest criticism about this book actually was not like the world building, because let me tell you, the world building, there was none. Like zero, zilch, nada of world building. Like I barely even found out that this was fairies if it weren't for that one sentence that described that it was about fairies. That is it. But my biggest criticism were the spicy scenes. Look, I don't mind spice. I love spice. I get down with spice. Me and my boyfriend do spice, okay? But there's consensual spice too, you know? And I feel like this book was leaning towards a little bit of not consensual sex. I was trying to think like how to say it. Definitely please check your trigger warnings before reading this book. But overall, you know, I totally understand the dark romance. I love dark romance. But this was not sold to me as a dark romance. This was sold to me as a romantasy. So I was expecting for the spicy scenes to be played out a little differently. Overall, I gave this book a 3.5 rating. You could see why I gave it that type of rating. I still gave it a decent rating because honestly, it was a very quick read. I was flipping through those pages so quickly. My fourth book that I read was Bad Mormon by the lovely, beautiful, stunning, amazing Miss Heather Gay. If you don't know who Heather Gay is, she is one of the housewives from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. That is probably the best franchise of all housewives. Salt Lake City takes the trophy of best housewives. I think I look like a mother. If you know, you know. Bad Mormon by Heather Gay was a memoir of hers, and it's basically just going into a reflection of her life when she used to be a Mormon in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, her departure from her faith, and her journey as a single mother and entrepreneur. I'm not one to give a rating to a memoir. I feel like I'm no one to judge someone's life story at all. So most of the memoirs that I read, I always just give them 5 stars, you know, to give the actual author and person their flowers for being vulnerable and being emotional and being able to share their story with the public through a book. It was so interesting to get to know her in such a personal level. Like, yeah, we see a very personal level on TV from her, but the book really went into depth. It was all very eye-opening and it was very intriguing to see. So interesting for me to read, to see the expectations and what are the rules and regulations and what you can and cannot do within the religion. It was very, very intense to see sometimes. And, you know, no judgment and no harsh opinions or anything about that. I respect you and your religion 100%. But it's just so eye-opening. It's very, very eye-opening for me. Her journey into leaving the faith was very, very crazy to read about because I saw it on television. You know, she made it very apparent and she talked about it a lot on The Housewives. But in the book, she goes more into depth as to her own personal journey, like how it affected her internally and things like that, and how to this day she is still going through it. She also goes into how she joined the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, how it came about. I think that part of the book was so interesting to me because, like I said earlier, Salt Lake City is my favorite from the franchise. So it was so nice to see how it came about, who were the first ones picked. Heather was one of the first ones picked. Sorry, LB. Overall, I gave the book 5 stars. Like I mentioned, I'm not going to give anything lower. Heather Gay, the woman that you are, I love you. So book number 5, is it? We're by? Yeah, book number 5. I read The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden. It's a psychological thriller that explores the perils of modern dating. The narrative follows Sydney Shaw, a 34-year-old woman in New York City who, after a series of disappointing experiences with online dating, becomes involved with a man who seems perfect at first glance. As their relationship progresses, Sydney begins to uncover unsettling truths that lead her to question his true intentions. This book was good. The standard Freida McFadden storyline, it follows the exact points and little things that Freida McFadden always does in all of her books. Freida makes it seem like it's this one person, right? But it's not ever really that one person. It always ends up being the person you least suspect. Overall, I gave this book a 4 out of 5 star rating. I definitely recommend this book for all of you Freida McFadden fans. I highly recommend for you to read it because it's such a great one to add to that backlist that you're trying to finish of Freida's. One last thing to leave off on this book is the killer's MO was so messed up. Like, oh my God. Book number 6 was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Does my face say it already? Yeah. Iron Flame is the second installment in Rebecca Yarros' Empyrean series, following Fourth Wing. The novel continues the journey of Violet Sorrengail, who returns to Basgia's War College for her second year as a dragon rider. This year presents intensified challenges, including a new vice commandant, major burden bearers, and the looming threat of the Venom. Violet's resilience and leadership are tested as she navigates complex relationships, uncovers hidden truths about the kingdom's founders, and confronts personal dilemmas. Listen, this book was too long. Snooze fast. Like, the major pivotal points of the story, amazing. Plot twist at the end to leave you on a cliffhanger for the third book, Onyx Storm, great. Everything else in between, get out. I know that this is a controversial opinion. I know. I did not like this book. I don't know. When I started reading it from the beginning, I was like, great, we're going into exactly where we left off the first book. This is gonna be great. And then we started going into so many weird different directions that I wasn't understanding, and I was like, why is this part of the story? I guess it wasn't the most cohesive, to put it plainly. Overall, I gave this book a 3.5. It was lackluster. Xaden and Violet's relationship was insufferable. 2 grown adults not communicating is the most frustrating thing to read in my entire life. Set some time aside. Like, instead of having some spice, sit down, have a conversation, figure out your problems, get it together, and then have makeup spice afterwards. So that, my friends, is Iron Flame. Alright, so book number 7 that I read this year was Books and Bribe by Lucinda Berry. Not Lucinda Berry, by Lucinda Race. I'm so sorry. Books and Bribe is the first book in Lucinda Race's A Bookstore Cozy Mystery series. Set in the quaint town of Pembroke Cove, Maine, the story follows bookstore owner Lily Michaels. After a fall that leaves her with a head injury, Lily discovers that her cat Milo can talk and that she possesses magical abilities, revealing her true identity as a witch with Milo as her familiar. So stinking cute. As Lily navigates her newfound power, she teams up with Detective Gage Erickson to uncover secrets and solve mysteries within their community. Perfect cozy mystery with the most beautiful little touch of a romance subplot. Like, perfect. The banter between Lily and Milo is the funniest, cutest thing that I've ever read, probably. The friendship romance, it wasn't such a prominent theme in my opinion, but honestly, like, seeing how their romance develops through the story and the way that Lucinda really knew how to talk about how they started falling in love with each other, but how they were like nervous to tell each other, but like doing little acts of service for each other and things like that. It was so cute. So cute. The main premise of the book is a mystery, trying to find out who done it and like who killed the person that was killed. And there's a lot of secrets behind a lot of people that live in the town and things like that. So that's definitely one very prevalent theme in the story. Overall, I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I honestly enjoyed this book to its full potential. Like, I really did not want more. I did not want less. It was the perfect balance of cozy mystery with a little romance subplot. Like, perfect. All right. So book number 8 that I read was The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This is book number 2 in the Deathcast series. It's book number 2, but it's actually the prequel to the first book that came out. But honestly, Adam, like, kudos to you for doing that, because I definitely wanted a prequel. This book was so top tier for me. The First to Die at the End is a prequel to Adam Silvera's best-selling novel, They Both Die at the End. Set in a world where an organization called Deathcast predicts people's death dates, the story follows 2 teenagers, Orion Pagan and Valentino Prince, who received their end-date calls on the same day. Orion, living with a serious heart condition, has long anticipated such news, while Valentino, new to New York City, is unprepared for the reality of his impending death. This book stole my heart, to say the least. This book was so amazing. The LGBTQ plus representation also is another thing that I love about this series, because I feel like I have not read many books with that type of representation. I know there's millions of books out there with it for sure, but I love anything LGBTQ plus. We need to be supporting each other, especially in these times that are so scary, unfortunately. But if we stand with each other and we fight against whatever's against us, I know that we will prevail and we will come out on top. The love story between Orion and Valentino was so heartwarming. It literally made me bawl my eyes out at the end because of the way that things turned out. But overall, I gave this book a 5-star rating. The speculative fiction aspect of it with contemporary romance was such a perfect blend, in my opinion. Book number 9 that I read was Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I'm a huge horror fan, to preface. I love watching scary movies. I love to read a horror book. Jason really drove it home for the horror aspect and like the creepy kid and like the paranormal aspect, all done really well in my opinion. Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak is a supernatural thriller that follows Mallory Quinn, a 21-year-old recovering addict who becomes a nanny for the Maxwell family in a quiet suburban neighborhood. While caring for their 5-year-old son Teddy, Mallory notices his increasingly disturbing drawings depicting violent scenes. As she investigates, Mallory uncovers unsettling connections between Teddy's art and a long unsolved murder, blurring the lines between reality and the supernatural. My favorite thing about this book was definitely how they showed the actual pictures that Teddy was drawing. And you can see progressively how they change, how they start interpreting an actual story, and it's left to us as a reader to start interpreting these images and try to figure out the story behind it. Obviously, Jason tells you the story behind the images at the end, but the way that it kind of gets you to start thinking about it and thinking, how do these pictures correlate to this little boy's life? Overall, I gave this book also 5 stars. I think we're at like 3 books now in the first 3 months of 2025 that I've given 5 stars, which is so crazy to me. It already looks like a great reading year ahead for me, honestly. But definitely this one takes its 5 stars home because of The story, the plot, the characters being so likable, the premise, the aspect of showing the pictures being drawn was so cool, and just the whole entire wrap up of the story was so perfect to me. 5 stars. Definitely recommend. If you're a horror fan, read it, please. Book number 10 is The Hanging City by Charlie N. Holmberg. The Hanging City is a fantasy novel that follows Lark, a young woman with the unique ability to instill fear in others. After years of fleeing her abusive father and finding no refuge among humans, Lark seeks asylum in Kagmar, a city inhabited by trolls, humankind's sworn enemies. There, her fear-inducing power becomes a valuable asset in combating monstrous threats, but it also places her under strict scrutiny. Using her abilities against the troll is punishable by death. As Lark navigates this complex society, she confronts challenges to her loyalty, discovers unexpected friendships, and explores themes of belonging and the multifaceted nature of fear. This book overall was very well done, and I was hesitant to say it in that way because of certain factors, but I definitely feel like the world building in this book was phenomenal. Phenomenal. They really went into depth about describing the city, how the city is, what the city looks like, how the trolls are. She really went into depth when it comes to the culture of the trolls. I loved learning about the trolls, about their city, about how they came about their cultures, about the way that they are. One thing I did struggle with this book was the actual romance plot, because I feel like the author was writing and then all of a sudden was like, hold on. Romantasy is like the big thing now. Let's make this into a romantasy. The romance comes out of left field, in my opinion. It's not developed very well either. I didn't even feel like they were an actual couple. I feel like the author should have just focused on the fantasy, on the troll city, on the actual war that was looming through between humans and trolls and things like that. Especially if you're doing a standalone fantasy. I feel like if you're trying to balance the romance and the fantasy aspects together, you really need to work on them both cohesively for them to tie together. And it was really boring, unfortunately, to read about their romance. Like, I was not interested in them being a couple. I was not intrigued. Like, I was not rooting for them. Overall, I gave the book a 3 out of 5 stars. You know, it's not my particularly favorite fantasy book in the market right now, but it's not the worst one I've read either. So I feel comfortable with a 3-star rating. Book number 11 was Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. So sorry if I said the name wrong. This book, oh my gosh. Before the Coffee Gets Cold is a novel by Toshikazu Kawaguchi that transports readers to a quaint Tokyo cafe, where patrons have the unique opportunity to travel back in time. However, this journey comes with strict conditions. Travelers must remain seated, can only interact with others who have visited the cafe, and most importantly, must return before their coffee gets cold. It was such a nice, wholesome read, honestly. The author just did such a good job in really tugging at your heartstrings in this story. Such an important novel to read also, in my opinion. I really found the rules of the cafe so interesting. Overall, I definitely give this book another 5 stars. I 10/10 recommend. Please go out there and read this book. And I'm so excited to read the following books in this series. Alright guys, we made it to the end. Book number 12 was Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. Whew. This book, girl. Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton is a dark romance novel that intertwines elements of suspense and psychological complexity. The story follows Sawyer, a young woman fleeing a troubled past, who becomes entangled with Enzo Vitali, a man with deep connections to the ocean and its predators. Their encounter leads to a storm that leaves them stranded on a deserted island, where they must confront not only the dangers of their environment, but also the complexities of their evolving relationship. I don't even know where to start with this book. This book was crazy. Like, when I read a dark romance, I go into it thinking this is gonna be some crazy ish. But then when I finish a dark romance, I'm like, am I the problem? Should I seek therapy? Because why am I turned on? The spice in this book was perfect. H.D. Carlton knows how and when to put in the spice scenes throughout the novel. She just knows exactly when we need it. I'm telling you, H.D. Carlton did it so perfectly in this book. I really have no critiques in terms of like how cohesive this book was, because I feel like it was perfection. Overall, I did give the book a 4 out of 5 stars. Enzo really like redeemed himself when he was willing to listen to Sawyer's her past traumas, why she became the person that she was, and he really was so apologetic and so understanding, and he really did like a full 180 and became like this perfect Italian daddy. Great book. I definitely recommend for you to read it if you're into dark romance, or if you're trying to dabble into dark romance. I think it's a pretty good starter. Maybe not the best starter, but I would say it's a pretty good starter because I've read some other crazy stuff for sure. Alright guys, so there you have it. Those are the 12 books that I have read from January to March of 2025 so far. I really hope that you guys enjoyed my reviews, that you guys got some type of recommendations, that you guys agree or disagree with my opinions on these books if you've read them. If you do agree or disagree, leave a comment. Let me know. Let's have a discussion. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know what you have in mind about these books. Do you agree that this book was a 5-star? Or do you disagree that this book was a 3-star? Just tell me all about it. Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate you. You are the best. If you like this video, make sure to like it and also subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you know when I post the next video. Make sure to follow me on my socials at Darling I'm Hooked on Instagram and on TikTok. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Let's get hooked.